Thanks for rejoining us. Now the issue was on my end. Yeah, so at the time that I just asked Sensei to join us, the app just stopped. So it looks like we're gonna drink loads of tea, my friends, loads of tea, but we're gonna get there. So we just need to be a bit more patient, okay? Thanks for rejoining us. Now I have Sensei here on the line, and I'm trying to see if everything works because at this exactly time app crashed. Yay! Oh, we're ready, guys. Oh, great.
I love technology, man. I love it. We're here.
We are here. We made it. So just right on this time when I pressed Sensei Liu, boom! Looks like the curtain in the theater closed up. All right, Sensei, we had some guys here, and first of all, thank you so much for your attention. Above all, the patience with technology, because we need to be flexible like water. That's it. It is what it is. They are doing a great job. At least we have the opportunity to use this technology. And thanks for taking your time, your patience to dedicate your time. I always tell my students, time worth more than money, because money you can run after that, but time you never can get it back. So thanks for sharing your precious times with us. And I will just wait a little bit for the guys rejoin us. And I told them that I will record this, and later on I'm gonna post it on Instagram TV in case the app crash. We have a backup for the guys later on over there. So with you guys now, Sensei Liu. I would like Sensei Liu to introduce him for these beautiful guys outside and behind the screen. It's all with you.
Well, I set up Drogheda Academy of Judo. What are we now? A year and a half ago with my colleague David.
Awesome.
And the reason why I set it up, I didn't grow up doing judo, playing judo. That wasn't my sport as a child. I actually did it because I was too skinny, and I played Gaelic football. And my dad didn't want me going to the gym, so he says, "Here, you're gonna come up and learn some judo." So he sent me to judo when I was about 16 or so.
Congratulations! Congratulations for your dad. Great decision.
I loved it. I wanted to go to martial arts my whole life, so I thought this was heaven for me. And I loved it. I fell in love with the sport straight away. And it was funny because in terms of football, it enabled me to go from playing minor. When I left minor, which is under 18 football, I weighed 9 stone. And I went into adult football playing League Division 4. Because I was so light, the coaches wouldn't even look at me. And within a year, I had been at that stage doing about 3 years of judo, but my judo had really come along over the previous year and a half. And I found that within a year of being adult football, I was up playing Division 1 football in Dublin. So I solely attribute that to stuff I had done with my health, and we'll talk about that later with breath work, but also in terms of the confidence that judo gave me for life. To be able to stand beside a guy who is no joking about 6'6". So one of the first guys I marked is a very, very famous footballer. Joe McNally is his name, and he's about 6'6" and about 22 stone. The funny thing is he didn't need to move very far, but when he got the ball, he knew what to do with it. So I was like a little mouse scurrying around him the whole time, but it gave me the confidence to stand beside the likes of him, to stand beside the likes of, the Bars brothers, who would be very, very well known Gaelic footballers in Dublin, and known for being really, really tough nuts at the time. And I had no problem. So that's what judo gave me in my early days. And I drifted away from it because I got really big into the football and progressed well in that and then in life. And then when I was about 30 years of age, I came back to it. It was something that was always nagging at me, and I came back to it. And I went through the bell. I went back to my own Sensei Ray Steers, there in Portmarnock.
Oh, Sensei. Awesome, Sensei. Great Sensei.
Ray is amazing. He's a great guy. So I went back to him. and started enjoying the judo again. And what am I, 8 years later and still doing it. So I went along, got my first dan, competed in a few competitions, but really I set up the club because for many reasons, but it was about the children, and it was about I love judo as a way of life. It incorporates almost every physical literacy skill. So most sports have a handful of those skills. Like they teach you maybe hand-eye coordination, maybe foot-eye. They might teach you how to roll, but very, very few sports actually teach them all as a part of the sport.
It's very complex. It's a system. It's
yeah,
based on develop you as a whole.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Your mind, your body, movement, socially. It's really good.
And so, so I went back and I started developing that then for living locally and for the kids as well. I got 3 girls so that they could play. And yeah, that's why it started. That's why we kicked it off with David, who's my partner. And I couldn't host Drogheda Academy of Judo without him. He's an amazing, he's a French guy. And he looks after all my admin. He looks after looking after the parents and the children. He's without him, Drogheda Academy of Judo wouldn't exist either. So a big shout out to David for that too.
Very good. Thanks, Sensei David, for helping this amazing art to fly up and to help Sensei Liu. As I always tell my students, together we are stronger, alone we are nothing. So it's really hard. Of course, like my case, I'm not alone, but sometimes I have to take lots of tasks individually. And well, it's a lot easier when you have someone in harmony connected with you in order to help you and to keep raising the benefit for the others, because that's what it is. So that's what Jigodo Kano made it. You said you were skinny, so you were exactly what Jigodo Kano was, skinny, but he trained judo. And that just benefited him a lot, and he just found some concepts to help us skinny or strong guys to still develop and then find a way of judo can contribute to individual and as a group to each one's life. So well done, Sensei. And when did you start? Was it early age, so when you were very young, or when you were a teenager or adult already?
Yeah, as a teenager, like I was 16 I think I was 16 or 17 when I started judo. When I went up to race, and his club was amazing at the time. The amount of high quality judoka that were there was incredible, but I didn't know that. I didn't know any better. And that's the thing, is I was never really immersed into the competitive side because every time there was competitions on and gradings on, I was playing football. That was my first love at the time. But no, I just loved the training. It was just a totally different way of training, and it really feeds into, like, I get asked a lot nowadays is, what's the difference between BJJ and judo?
Oh yeah,
and
the number one question.
It's a funny question, but obviously and I know that they come from the same sources. But judo is considered a way of life, and that's the main thing, is that it was considered a way of life. So it took all the really harsh elements of the martial art out and created as a way of life, so that you could train for life. That you didn't have to stop when, like, you play Gaelic football. Most Gaelic footballers, first of all, there's a huge drop-off rate after under 18. Then there's another huge drop-off rate coming in about age 24. And then by the time everybody's 40 years of age, they're not playing Gaelic football. And then the question happens is, well, what happens to their health? Now they're just going to the pub. In Ireland, it's based around, or it was for a long time based around, the social aspect, and that's what the community of judo really pulled me in as well. But judo is a way of life for life, and that's a beautiful thing about it, is that it can be used for life. Whereas Gaelic football, rugby, the drop-off rates are so high because the body gets absolutely bashed. It gets cremated when the way it is played nowadays. So for me, when I pull it back to the foundations, is well, if they stop playing the football, then they lose the community. So now you've lost two things. You've lost the physical training, and you've lost the community that you were in. And now you're looking for meaning and purpose in life. What's left is Okay, you have your family there if you have a family, and you have work. That's it. You may have a social side which is based around the pub, but where's the idea of whole health in the person? So
Yeah.
that's what I love about the community. Like we have in our club, we have at the minute, as it says, we're only a year and a half old. We have lots of young children whose parents have heard of judo or got involved in it, and they want to send their kids, and that's amazing. And then we have adults, and all of our adults, we actually only have 2 or 3 teenagers. That's all. And the rest are adults who are all over the age of 30 and even
Awesome.
40 years of age.
Awesome. That's
They're all people who come back to the sport. And it's rare to get that in traditional sports in Ireland anyway.
I tell my wife and my families and my students, so sometimes we keep focus on just, on the 18s to 25 when you want to impress someone with your physique, and then you really care about your body, but you neglect it. You neglect your body after that, and even before, because sometimes your parents didn't really were into any sport education mindset to contribute or the benefits of the sport for yourself. And if you think on the investment on your life, if you invest in your life with good sports, it help you to use less health system, it help you to feel better, it help your mind to feel better, it help you to be more willing to do things and socialize and give it back to your home, to your parents, to the community. So it's part, as you mentioned, I was not really into judo on the competitive side. I was doing one course in England last year for judo coaching, and impressively they were asking us how much or what's the percentage of, if you get 100 whole pizza, what would be the piece of competitive side of judo? And a few guys were saying 20, 30, 50, 10. They said no, not even 10. 5% are competitors. So 5% or one piece or even less than one piece of this pizza, it's for competitors. The other is for hobby. The other part is for martial arts. The other part is for any reason that you want. So it doesn't matter if you didn't compete or if you want to compete. As long as you keep learning judo, that's what it's made for. That's all about what this art is. And also you were mentioning about BJJ and the history. Yeah, I'm doing now one International Judo Federation coaching course, and they cover the whole history of what was Bujutsu and behind that, and why Jigoro Kano for Jujutsu, and from where he came from, and exactly that. So Jigoro Kano idea was exactly created the do, the part of the judo. So
The way,
the do
yeah.
is the part of the way you not only feed your body, but you feed your mind. You exercise the Jitakyo way, the mutual benefit, the Seiryoku Zenyo, which is the maximal efficiency with minimal effort. And that really is the benefit of this art, not only thinking on defend yourself, but also think on what you can contribute to the life. And I'm a BJJ guy as well. I love BJJ, but in terms of this art, judo is far away developed, because we don't only think on just great techniques or great guys to be physic awesome. No, we think guys to live the life in a better way. So well done, Sensei. Now, thanks for sharing all this information. Guys, if you are nearby Drogheda, please don't hesitate. Go visit this awesome Sensei, share your picture here, and then enjoy the art of judo. We are a big family in Drogheda, or with Sensei Ray or any other Sensei. As long as he teaches judo, go visit, enjoy the benefit of desire. Now, Sensei, I would like to, I was really interested, and I tell you one thing, I don't know if you guys ever watched Hulk. I guess yes. And there is one part that he goes to one really Brazilian famous master. I think he's Rickson Gracie, and Rickson Gracie is teaching Hulk how to breathe, so how to calm down his anger. And I've been in myself some breathing techniques, because I was reading from Rickson Gracie point of view that if you have your heart beating like I was before to start this life, my heart was like adrenaline was like like when you go to the interview on your job, when you want to say some important stuff for in life or anything in your life, you will have this adrenaline, because this is the way your body was built to help you to either react, run, or hide in stressful situation. And it's up to you to see, yeah, that's not really stressful, let's go down here. So in terms of judo, we know that when we step on a mat, before the competition, before any exam, our heart, and we train how to dominate it. Because if you don't dominate that, you are already burning your energy. And Rickson was saying this, if your heart beating is, let's say, 120 beats per minute, and your opponent is 60 beats per minute, your opponent is already winning that battle, because he has more nutrients nourishing his body, his brain is more calm, his reflex can see much more than you that is already overstressed. So you make him win, but the probability that you can lose because you are already losing by yourself, for yourself, you're not losing for anybody else, yourself that is not controlling this feeling, it's high. So in judo, especially my view is, I also teach my students how to control that. And I know that you are an awesome sensei in this part as well. I was telling some of my friends, yoga coaches, do you have an idea? Can you help me? Most of them, they were trying to help me on the point of view of the yoga coach. But I was thinking, I don't breathe when I'm fighting in this way. The way I breathe is different. So I was really missing someone from the martial arts, could be MMA, BJJ, any martial arts, to point me out. And when I read your profile, I said, gosh, I knew the sensei, I didn't know that. Wow! But I said, wow, it would be amazing to ask him to help us. Please, sensei, tell me more about your athletic performance breathing coaching, please.
Yeah, well, let's start with my entry into breathing. Rickson Gracie, by the way, is an amazing practitioner. Not only was he considered one of the best fighters of all time with over 400 professional wins and 0 losses, but he was so far ahead of the game in terms of his preparation and his style and his community and everything. He was incredible. And from picking through YouTube, I learned a lot from him in my early days too. But
awesome.
I've gone... My injury, when I said, remember I said I was small and skinny as a kid and I played Gaelic football? Well, I was also very sick. I had chronic asthma from the age of, I'm told about the age of 3. And it went through waves and periods of being very strong and really bad symptoms and then fine. And when I was good, I was good. But when I was weak, I was really, really weak. And I spent a total of about 6 months in bed when I was about 18 years of age with asthma. So I wouldn't be able to walk like 200 meters to the shops when I was bad. I was on 3 inhalers. I was on over 400 prednisolone steroid tablets. And I was on about 12 courses of antibiotics in the space of a year. And what happened to me was I found a breathing technique, a Russian breathing technique called the Buteyko method, and it teaches you how to restore your breathing, how to rebalance the chemistry of your blood, to normalize your breathing. And when you normalize your baseline breathing, then your body just functions normally, functions healthily, functions as it's meant to, as everybody's meant to. So it's the same way as if a really, really overweight person started to eat natural foods. Guess what? Their body's going to lose a load of weight, they're going to get in shape, and they're going to be in their natural body weight and the natural look to the body. Well, it's the way
they were beautiful. That's what they were made. We were made to be in this position, in this function.
Yeah. So it's the same with breathing from that perspective. So I left breathing and I went into personal training, strength and conditioning, flexibility work as my profession. I dived into those areas because I just loved that whole aspect and coaching people. And what I found with over the years was there was a couple of things. One is, no matter what disease a person had, whether it was asthma, whether it was Crohn's disease, osteoporosis, heart disease, obesity, depression, anxiety, panic disorders, all of these different diseases of the body, as the person started to physically move and train, started to put in some good baselines of food and sleep, that all those symptoms disappeared. Now, when you look at the definition of what a cure is the relief of symptoms. So I know people get afraid to use the word cure, but essentially they're curing their own illnesses. But really what they're doing is they're just returning their body to how it's meant to live, which is eating natural foods, it's moving a lot, it's breathing efficiently, it's sleeping well at night. They're the basics to human being and to human function.
Sensei, sorry to interrupt you. I always say to my students, because we invest sometimes in tablets and food that doesn't really benefit us. It's just for the sake of the momentary pleasure, which sometimes is fine, but if you really calculate afterwards what going to result in your body, it's massive. And we sometimes invest in car, nice clothes, but we don't get the habit very often to invest in ourselves. And what you are saying is pretty much you are investing or reinvesting in yourself to give it back to you, to try to get as much as back to what you're supposed to be. At the end of the day, you will feel better, you will sleep better, you will get better habits for yourself to then extend to the others. Interesting, Sensei. Great stuff. Well,
I mean, let's call a spade here. If you don't look after yourself, you are going to develop diseases. You are going to be ill and you're going to be in pain. And that starts to happen in and around your 30s, and then you go into your 40s and it really starts to happen. And I can say this because this is my job. Like, I end up working with a lot of people on a one-to-one basis, training them, where they've had amazing careers. They've earned they've done very well for themselves. They've developed their family. They've developed a lot of areas of their life, but they forgot about their home. And the one home that you have, the one piece of technology that you cannot swap out, change out, you cannot ask for a new one, is your body. You only have one body. And if you don't look after that body, those diseases and dysfunction catch up to you.
You can rent another body, isn't it? It's like I can rent a house, another house. I can go from Brazil to Ireland, but I can't get another body.
Yeah, you can't.
I can't.
And that's the beautiful thing about it is, like, you got to think of your health like a glass of water, right? So if you're always drinking, like this one, if you're always drinking from the water, your water goes down, yeah? So you're drinking your energy. So you go from having complete health to incomplete health. Then you start lowering it again. You go into pain and low energy. Then you go into disease and dysfunction. And then you die. And if you look in Japan, they have a word. Now, I'm not going to get the pronunciation right, but it's I think it's called koroshi, which is death by work. So many people die in Japan. 1 in 5 people die in Japan because they work themselves to death. They actually have a word for it, and it's so well known. It's like saying obesity over here. Well, over there they have death by work, because they go working for a corporation for 16 hours a day, and they get into they do that for 20 years. They get into their 40s, and one day they just don't wake up. The body bring you back what you pay him back. Yeah. So whatever you feed him, he will bring you back to. No rock science here. In all of my studies that I've done, and in all of my experience, what I found was, going through the years, is there was one thing missing, and I couldn't figure out. There was something missing from what I was coaching my clients. And I couldn't figure it out until I realized it was the one thing that I knew how to do at this stage, which is how to breathe well. And the penny dropped with me, and I went, wow. So I went back and I started, this was about 5-6 years ago, I went back and started studying the Buteyko method and becoming an instructor in it. And at the time that I did that, I found out about the Wim Hof method. Now, the Buteyko method is like here, and the Wim Hof is up here. They're two totally different methods of breathing. And I went, holy shit, what is going on here? Because on the one side, Buteyko said that you can heal over 150 lifestyle illnesses with his method. And then Using a completely opposite method, you have Wim Hof, who says that you can heal any inflammatory disease with his method. And I'm going, nah, that's a load of crap. There has to be something wrong here. So I started to peel back not only those two methods, but then everything in between. From I've now studied over 70 breathing techniques, experienced them and coached them with different types of people. I've looked at the physiology, the psychology, and the spirituality aspects of all of them. And I've begun to, what I eventually then did was, over the course of the last 3 years, I've started to piece together how they all come together. What's the framework of how techniques work and how they work for particular people in need? And what I found was, one, you have to restore your breathing system to have strong baselines, and then you can use it for performance. So when you ask, you know, how should I breathe for judo? Well, you can use a technique and hack your system, and you will get some benefits from it for your judo. Or you can take the time to develop your breathing system, learn how to move well in breathing, and then you can use it for performance. And all of a sudden now you've completely changed the way you will do your judo. You'll be stronger, you will be fitter, you'll be more calm, you'll be able to think more clearly, you'll be able to focus better, you'll be able to recover better. It's just a complete game changer for people.
It is indeed. I just would like to, for the audience that are just staying tuned with us, Sensei he also studied physical education, isn't it, Sensei? Loads of, if you go online on his website that he's gonna tell later on, you guys will see that he's not only basing on assumptions, he studied a lot. He also trained, he also tried a lot. So he knows what he's saying here. And I want to just testimony one thing here. The reason why I got into this breathing method is because I competed a lot on from my, let's say, 12 to 18. And then I stopped, and then I joined Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I said something is not really working, because every time I'm competing, I'm not performing what I trained, and it seems that I'm burnt out. And it's not because I'm using strength, but it's just because I feel that I'm choking myself. And talking about choking, it's one thing that I learned. I personally go for chokes, because I prefer, because if the guy doesn't tap, when you try to submit the person, the way for the audience that is not a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner or judo, if I try to strangle you, if you tap, I will release the strangling, and that's it, the fight ends. But sometimes there also, we call it in judo kansetsu waza, which is the joint locks. And the joint lock, sometimes the guy doesn't want to tap, and then you break it, even not realizing that you wanted to break it. So I prefer the chokes, because the choke, you can be as strong as you want. But it matters, just choose 20 seconds to cut your bloodstream, and you're gonna sleep if you don't tap, and it don't damage you so much. So also, because some guys, they put so much tensions, like I was doing, they're so stiff in here, they're already cutting their breathing, they are already, as you said, shortening that, and I just need to use a bit more, or just helping him a bit more to passing out. Obviously, it's not that easy. If I have a chance, I do, but at least I aim that. And I learned that, well, Anderson, you are choking yourself here, getting stiff the neck and everything. Relax, breathe. And I start to do this breathing exercise, and very often, I'm not trying to show off here, I'm just sharing with you guys. Sometimes the guys on BJJ, they said, you are so calm. And I think in my mind, I'm not calm. I'm just dimming my breathing and then using my body to see and spot on because of the breathing. Everything starts from the breathing. So I calm down my soul, and I what can I see here? What opportunity I see? So exactly what you're saying. So you learn how to calm down. You learn how to walk, breathing. You don't cut your breathing. You learn how to do that.
Yeah, and you can... Even more than learning how to do it in the moment, you have to train that away from the moment first, so that when you're in the moment, you know how to drop into it. But it's funny because, like, I don't consider myself a good quality judoka. Judo actually isn't my strength. I didn't grow up playing the sport. I've got limited ranges of movement for judo. I don't have the motor skills because I didn't develop that as a kid.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with all that. My superpower is breathing, because it's, for the likes of judo, it's amazing. So I remember when I went back to Sensei Ray Steer's club, not long afterwards, there was 2 Moldovan guys showed up on the scene. And these Moldovans walked in, and they were 66 kilos. And they walked in. I'm 73 kilos, so I'm pretty close to them in terms of weight category, because we had a lot of heavyweights in the club.
Yeah.
And I watched them walk in, and you could see they were well built. They're Eastern European. I'm going, okay, what's going on here? They put on a white belt. I'm going, I don't know.
I don't buy it.
and then I watched them move, and their movement was amazing. And I watched them move. So there was one of our other club mates. His name is Maury. He's an Iranian. I believe he's ex-special forces. He's 120 kilos. An amazing judo player. He was an international player at one stage, like a beautiful judoka. So one of these Moldovans went up, and they're doing randori with him, and all of a sudden, boom! He dropped Zianag, and Maury goes 120 kilos, goes flying straight over him. Whoops. 120 kilos goes flying straight over, and I'm like, whoa. Who is this guy? Who is this guy?
How? Show me.
Yeah. So it turns out these guys went to the 2015 World Games in Baku, and they were I think they were number 1 and number 2 in Moldova. Yeah. Now, anybody who's in the Irish Judo Association at the moment will know the guys. They're lovely guys. They're beautiful judoka. But when I go randori with them, and I used to do it a lot because I was a similar weight, and I just get up and go, and they would throw me and throw. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you, guys. For you guys that are hearing the sensei saying randori is a terminology used by judokas for free sparring. So that's the time that we don't agree upon what we're gonna do, and we try to apply our technique. Sorry, sensei.
Mm-hmm. So when we were doing that, what I noticed was when they took a hold of you, when they got their grips, they could sense exactly where you were gonna move.
That's true.
I mean, they would, and I realized this very soon, was they would do that. Literally that, and they could tell how your center balance is going to go by your reaction. And that for me is what really high level judo is when they have those grips, no matter which grip they take, they know within millimeters of a movement what your response is going to be, and then they can predict 4 steps down the line on what technique they're going to execute on you.
That's one of the benefits of judo.
And I was like,
predict by your hand.
That blew my mind away how accurate and how sensitive they were to that. Now, I have this same power, the same strength when it comes to somebody's fitness level, because I listen and I feel their breathing. And I can tell, and anybody can do this, once they train their breathing system, you can tell how somebody breathes. Just like Hickson said, you can tell their time to fatigue. In other words, how long it's going to take them to get tired. You can tell how much energy they have left. You can tell, because once your breathing goes, then your ability to think clearly goes. Then your ability to execute a technique goes, and then you either get nailed for a technique, or you get injured in trying to execute something because you use the wrong body parts to execute a technique.
Indeed.
So the process is breathing, being able to think clearly, and then technique.
So let me just share one thing with you. So I personally, I completely agree with that, because one of the reasons, one of the advices for who trains those that run, that never run before, is while you are running or while you are walking, keep speaking, keep talking. Because if you stop to talk means that, and I keep seeing you like, that's a time for you to stop and cool down because you are going above your limit. And as you're saying, sometimes I saw the guys in my hand, we call loop choke, where you have your hand here and you see the guy straight away like that. And my hand was burning. I was like, I'm gonna release it. I will not choke him. But because I saw he, I said, he gonna pass out. It's just a matter of hold, and boom, there you go. So I agree with you. And also, when I was too calm because I was breathing and I was very calm, I said, no, this opponent, you have to be 50% of your energy. So I start to do the breathing exercise to hit my mood up. Come on, you have to be 50, don't need to be too calm here because he's very aggressive. And I could put myself in there, right on that stage to say, yeah, you can fight equally. Now he's like 120% adrenaline, and you just need 50% to control and start your game. Indeed, yes, that make a huge difference. Huge difference. Thanks for sharing, Sensei, that.
Beautiful.
Sensei, I would like now, you were saying, sharing about techniques and briefings and the methodologies from the Russians. And where is the Wing Wolf one? I think it's Netherlands, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there also I saw the cold bath, which, oh my God, it's good for us when we train a lot. It's really good for us to help our body, but it's really hard and tough at the beginning for you to develop your mindset. What would you, for this audience that is joining us, what would be the first step for these guys that may think that they need even to sing or to present the PowerPoint presentation in a meeting or talk to their husband, kids? Sometimes I have to use breathing exercise with my son here. Like, yeah, here we go now, Anderson, time to cool down because you are on 100 beats and then that's going to be problematic for your son. And so what would you advise us to just start? So what would be the first start?
Well, the most important thing, the first most important thing to get to, the place to get to is to restore nasal breathing. You are designed to breathe with your nose. That's in through your nose and out of your nose. Mouth breathing is a sign of a stressful breathing pattern. So if you naturally you have already begun to create a stress response in your physiology, in your system.
It's unconscious, so unconsciously, even though if you don't know, you don't realize, that's already working behind the scenes.
There was a book written in about 1882 called Shut Your Mouth and Save Your Life.
I like that.
Yeah, shut your mouth and save your life. And what he found was when he researched people in London, babies in London and young children, he found a lot of them were dying, a lot of them were developing diseases and postural diseases as well. And then he went out to the Commonwealth and he found that none of them had the same diseases. But as he went along through his research and through the years, through the decades, he found all the tribal children around the world were beginning to develop the same diseases. And it's like, wow, what's going on? And he observed and he looked for what's going on. And he found the difference was the introduction of white sugar, the introduction of alcohol, the introduction of overheating your system. But he found that the critical point was that when the children started breathing through their mouth at nighttime, then they started to develop all of these diseases.
Ah, nighttime. Ooh.
Yeah, so if you're breathing through your mouth, you're going to have higher rates of allergies, of rhinitis and sinusitis, of asthma, of panic disorder, of anxiety. They're all going to go, your risk for all of those types of diseases goes up. So it's really important to restore nose breathing throughout the day and the night. And that's the first thing I'll get to. Now, when I'm working with children, I won't talk about this stuff in this way. What I do before and after, for example, before and after at the end of a session, at the start of a session, I'll do things like I'll say, all right, let's smell the pizza.
Cool.
You know, really simple, but it brings a lot of awareness.
Cool.
Yes. And then I'll say stuff like you have 3 levels of breathing. Breathing level 1 is all nose. Breathing level 2 is nose-mouth. Breathing level 3 is mouth-mouth. So what we want to do is we want to, like moving down your gears in a car, we want to step down our levels in our breathing. So when you're tired, you want to, when you're resting, when you're recovering, it's not about water. Water's banned. It's not about, you know, bending over and being tired.
I always tell that to my students. You are actually getting our diaphragm even shorter, so it's more even closer. So you're closing that, and then you have to open that to breathe.
Yes.
Good point.
So what you do is you rev your engine. You allow your body to breathe. And then you come down the levels. You step down in your levels.
I see.
And then you come all the way back to the beginning.
I already want to do that, Sensei. Everyone there.
And And vice versa. If you want to get ready for a fight, you do the opposite. You go.
There you go.
And then you're good to go. So you either can step up or you can step down to prepare you for judo or to help you to recover from the bout that you just had.
Sensei, it's just a flashback here now, because last year I fought the Purple Belt Division the Irish Open here, the International Irish Open from ABJJF. So ABJJF is an international Brazilian federation. It's a big event. And I do remember in the first fight, and I had loads of losses. I don't call it lost. I was learning, loads of learning process. And then I was missing the breathing part. And then I said, no, now I'm going to leave that. And then I practiced that. And I remember the first fight, I was very nervous, and I heard the symptoms of my body. That's really important to know and understand your body. It's like, yeah, I'm not enjoying the event. I'm very nervous, very tense. I start to cool down my breathing. And I went to the final, and in the final was a bit tired, but not tired physically, but mentally. And then I start to do the, come on, give it, come on. And then I hit it up, and then I came on a very full adrenaline, and I won the competition. And yeah, it indeed, know where to put your breathing. It's really important, not only for sports, in everywhere in life.
Within 2 minutes, it can change your state. It can change your mind. Remember, there was 2017 research. It was an Irish guy, or he's a Canadian, but he was researching in Trinity College Dublin in Ireland. And he produced a paper that showed that your breathing is linked in your deep brainstem to focus and attention. So they're like that. So if your breathing is wayward, well then your attention, your ability to put attention on something and keep your focus is gone. Vice versa, you can use your breathing by restoring and controlling your breathing. You have the same powers over your ability to put your attention on something. Wow. They work together. There is no separation. They are one. And the reason, if you think of that, like take us back to caveman days, right? And your biggest threat to you was survival and possibly attack by an animal or a predator, right? So you think of a big bear coming from you, rah, right? You don't want to be able to sit there and go, I wonder if I can
what
talk
should I
this.
do?
I wonder if I can talk this bear down. I wonder if I can strategize with him. I wonder what type of bear he is. No. Your brain actually shuts down your thinking modern brain, and you go reptilian, and you go, boom, I'm out of there.
I need to survive.
So it's the same thing that happens here in the modern world. You're in the middle of, you're preparing yourself for a fight. You can't think clearly. Why can't you think clearly? Because you have a lot of unused energy, and you're now getting into that stress state. Now you want that stress state pre-fight. You want to be. But the thing is you're not in the fight at the moment. So you've got a whole load of unused energy that's just bouncing around the room like that, yeah? So you want to be able to contain that energy and box it in, ready for the fight, so then you can let it out and explode.
On the right
So
time.
the breathing helps you to frame that energy and just help to give it a place to stay until you're ready to use it. And then because you use those techniques and you're going straight into a fight, well, then it really benefits you throughout the fight. You can use the same way getting into an ice bath, and that's what the Wim Hof method is they use the breathing method to give you a running head start, to prepare your internal system, to prepare it for the challenge that's ahead. And then when you're in the challenge of the ice bath, your body's like, I got this, man.
I can make it.
I'm all good.
And that's exactly what we learn from martial arts. If you get a great sensei that teaches judo or BJJ. So sometimes we have the guy here choking our neck, and then, oh, thanks so much, Insta Machina. Thanks so much for your compliments. So sometimes we have the guy here in your neck. We say, come on, breathe. Because if you choke yourself, they're going to be quicker. You are already in trouble, but you can survive. Wait for the for his mistake, for then you do something. And then you try to adjust here, try to adjust there, and then you, out I am. Or in judo, the guy got a great grip. What should I defend? How should I move? What should I do? If I fall, should I protect my body, breaking the fall, and then just, I stand up, everything is fine. So that's a huge benefit. Thanks so, Sensei. I would stay here all day long hearing this special stuff. Thank you so much, Sensei. Now, I would like to now, Sensei, ask you to tell more about what is the innate strength. What is your program? And if the students out there want to hear any podcast or want to hear anything else or anything that then later on find that is beneficial or will really benefit their life, what could you help them, or what your program already helped them, or what advice can you give to them?
Sure. Well, Innate Strength is my website, innate-strength.com. And I've worked one-to-one with people for years, for about 15, 16 years on a one-to-one basis. So I customize a lot of my work to be able to work with people. But I found that I wanted to be able to speak with more people, develop a bigger community. I wanted people to know that actually you have the power within you to become healthy. You have the power within you to live your great life and how you want to be, whether that's you want to be an amazing judo player, whether it's you want to be a great father or a husband or a parent, whether it's you want to go off and be an adventurer. I don't care what you eventually do with it. But any of those things that you do, you've got to have a baseline of health. And the baseline of health, when you break that down even further, is breathing and movement. So what I've done is, from all my own work that I do, I funnel all of that into programs for developing your breathing system to, first of all, build health and then to use it for performance. And then I do the same with movement as well. And that's what the Drogheda Academy of Judo is about, is the expression of movement in an art form, in a sport. Awesome. So on Innate Strength, I have a couple of online programs that you can do one-to-one, customized. One is based around health, one is based around performance. And then just this week, I'm actually launching Project Breathe. So Project Breathe is a 12-week group coaching program, which means it's much better value for money in terms of it's cheaper, right? Mm-hmm. And instead of having the customized approach where I come in and I can pick apart and give you the stuff and have instant, it will take you through a 12-week framework of developing your breathing system and then being able to use it for performance. Awesome. It's about 15 years of worth of work on into it. But it's pretty cool because I don't know of any, I know of one other course in the world that does something similar to what I'm teaching, what I'm coaching online. But that's why I produce is because all this information isn't out there. So I think that like all the techniques are there and people don't know what to do with them. This takes them through a systemized approach of how to do it.
Oh, awesome, Sensei. Certainly, I appreciate your the way I don't even call it a work. I call it a gift because it's the way I see in judo. I don't teach judo. I teach the gift of you learn judo to do and decide of the judo lifestyle principles to help you act better in your life in any aspect. So that's why I'm really glad to have you because I think the gift you are giving to us now, it's another power in order to combat many other things that we have in our life there to make us live unhappy or especially in this hard time to have hard times or even to not even get the opportunity to know who we really are or our full capacity or potential that we have. So
Yeah.
awesome, Sensei. Thank you so much. And guys, if you are around Drogheda, please visit
We,
the
we,
Sensei.
we have a question. We have a question. So I
Yeah,
want to answer
look,
that question, which is a nice one.
Sensei.
Instant Machine is still hanging on. Nice
Sensei,
one.
oh, very good. Guys, what I will do now is I will give the Sensei, as he opened this window for us, if you guys have any questions, starting from the first one, you guys can post your question there. We will try to reply as much as we can, but we have a short limit as well because Sensei also I think has his own trainings as well. Make it squeeze it as most as you can, and I hope you guys enjoy. Make your questions. If you can't reply, don't be upset. Maybe you can get another opportunity. Join him on Instagram and make other questions. Okay. Now off you go. We open the channel for the questions now, and I'm here to hear the answers.
All right.
There you go, Sensei.
Instant Machine asked, is it optimal to stay level 1 all nose breathing for sport? No, it's not. Because the reason why you do sport is to express, is to create an art form. So you want to be able to use every ounce of your body and physiology as you do that. Okay? So for me, you can use breathing for extra strength, and you do that with using your mouth sometimes. You can use it for many, many different reasons. Having said all that, and this is where I think the confusion is coming in. There are some sports where it is optimal for. So if you're in a super endurance sport, where let's say you're an ultra runner, yes, you want to be nasal for almost as long as you can. And then if you have the skills, you can go mouth breathing, but take it back. Think of it this way. Mouth breathing burns more energy. It's like putting lots and lots and lots of sticks on the fire. So instead of when you have a fire raging, instead of just putting a log on the fire and letting it burn there and simmer, which is kind of that long, slow distance aerobic base of training, you have other energy systems which you can use. You can put sticks on, which is your anaerobic energy system, and you can use that then to get more power in a certain scenario. Now, when we talk about this, it is really, the problem is that most people haven't trained nose breathing ever.
Don't even know.
Don't even know about
it.
Yeah. So yes, you need to, when you're starting into breath training, you need to train it, which means you should exclusively use nose breathing until you develop that base. Now, in a healthy person, it takes about anywhere between about 6 to 10 weeks, depending on the person, right? So you develop that nose breathing, that level 1 first, and then you can layer on all the other cool stuff to capitalize on your system.
They say it make perfectly sense because I remember when I had my little son that now it's 4, he was just newborn. I brought him to the swimming classes, and he straight away knew how to, not obviously for a long time, but he knew how to breathe out when he was in the water. And now we had to stop the swimming class because he had 1 ear issue. He had to do a surgery. And now he's 4. He completely forgot how to breathe on the way that he was before, because now I notice, like me, when I drink a water, I stop to breathe. And I heard from some musicians that they don't do that. They breathe what they are drinking. So, and also throughout the years, we keep losing natural instinct that we had built in ourselves. And then we adjust according to our modernity life or modern life, and then we have to get back to this root. That's what you are saying. We are helping you guys to have the tools that you're born with, that you don't know For when you see, do I need to run? Yes, run. Do we need to run? No, you can walk, walk. Do you need to hop? Yeah, hop. Do you need to squat? Yeah, squat. So there are people today that they don't know when to squat, when to jog, when to run, when to sprint, and when to cool down. They think everything is at the same pace. Why? Because we lost by the modernity, the natural instinct that we had before.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, there's many ways to develop nasal breathing in terms of using exercise to restore you back to using your nose. And that's another misconception, is because nose breathing from a breath practice point of view came from the Buteyko method. As far as it now, ancient yoga, actually, if you there's a book, there's a lady over in the US, Robin Rothenberg, and she actually studied the Buteyko method with me at the same time, but she's a yogi. And she has all the ancient texts and the lineage, I think she told me, going back to like the 11th century. So her line of teachers is really, really strong. And she couldn't understand why she herself was suffering with a lot of energy issues and a lot of breathing issues, even though she'd done all the yoga type, modern yoga type techniques. When she learned the Buteyko method and learned to restore nasal breathing, restore breath efficiency and how to be calm, she thought it was unbelievable. And she also couldn't understand why it was so different to the way yoga teaches breathing. So she went back into the ancient yoga texts, and she actually found that they taught nose breathing as well. It's just that it has been lost in translation over the years. So, yeah, so she has found the exact same conclusions that we're coming to from different aspects. But in the modern day, certainly, from my experience, it's Dr. Buteyko was the one, and on top of him was my teacher in the Buteyko method, was a gentleman named Patrick McKeown, has brought a lot of awareness to developing nasal breathing. And so that needs to be redeveloped, because we lose that, as you says, for many, many different reasons as we're growing up. I give you 3 different reasons. I have asthma. One of my kids was born with a cord wrapped around her throat. Ooh. And another one developed a virus when she was 4 or 5 years of age. All 3 of us developed breathing pattern disorders, or we developed poor breathing patterns for totally different reasons. All of us, not only do we have to do the lifestyle stuff to get us back in, but we got to retrain our breathing patterns so that we know how to use our nose as a baseline. Nice. Because if you're not able to use your nose as a baseline, you're going to suffer with, you're going to be at much higher risk of suffering with the likes of anxiety, the likes of allergies, the likes of asthma, the likes of rhinitis and sinusitis, and even inflammatory diseases.
Which it comes from respiratory issues. So that's pretty basic, but we lost it. For the guys that are just joining us right now, I just would like to get, before we get to the next question. So here I'm Sensei Anderson, I'm a judo sensei, and Sensei Liu is also a judo sensei, and he's just saying today how important it is to breathe. He is a very qualified coach of strength, conditions, and the way you're supposed to breathe. So if you have any questions, don't forget to leave your comments below. He will reply your questions as soon as he can. He reads that. And we have another question right now. We are opening, if you guys want, for 4 more questions after that, and then we'll let Sensei summarize with his advice for this nowadays time, which seems scary, but we are stronger than that. So, what you guys say?
Yeah. So Instant Machine asks, so we can use our levels of breathing to restore ourselves back to level 1? The answer is, in a trained person, yes, absolutely. Yes, when you are trained, yes, that is the way I coach how people recover in sport. But if you have never done, if you cannot use your nose during the day, if your nose is blocked a lot, if you can't use your nose to go for a 5-kilometer run, well then you need to train that particular part of breathing first.